Democrats' national convention wraps up tonight. Ahead, what you can expect on the fourth and final night. In fact, we're going to talk about that right now because we have Leslie Sanchez, who is a CBS News political contributor and a Republican strategist, as well as Antjuan Seawright standing by. He is a CBS News contributor as well and a Democratic strategist, and he joins us now to talk about both of not only, actually, guys, what I want to do is I definitely want to talk about what we saw last night at the DNC, but I also want to look ahead, Leslie, to the RNC next week. So thank you both for joining us. Lots to get through. Antjuan, let's start with you. We heard from several prominent figures last night. We heard from Nancy Pelosi. We heard from Gabby Giffords. We heard from, ordinary Americans. What stood out to you the most?
Well, last night was a masterclass on storytelling and continuing to make the case by providing the evidence for Donald Trump to be not re-elected for president. And we have, in my opinion, two of the best case closers that we could ever have in an election cycle with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Last night for me was a very emotional night. We saw history being displayed in front of our eyes on every TV screen in every living room across the country. We saw the first African-American president and Barack Obama with a fierce urgency of now in his voice and a look in his eyes I've never seen before. We saw the first woman nominee for any major party for president, and Hillary Clinton reminding people that the work has to be done double of what it was in 2016 based on the election results where she won the popular vote but did not win the electoral college. And then we saw the first black woman with Asian descent lay the case and lay the groundwork from her set of experiences and accept our party's nomination as the vice presidential nominee for this election cycle. So that was an emotional night, and it was a true balancing act of not only making the case against Donald Trump, but also talking about what Democrats would do when we govern, when we win in November, up and down the ballot. And so that's what I saw last night. That's what I felt last night. And I felt a sense of urgency and a real emergency in every speaker's voice, including the historic figure in Nancy Pelosi when she gave her remarks.
Leslie, Democrats addressed some key issues during the first hour of last night's convention, including climate change, immigration, and gun violence. What I thought was interesting about how they produced this is a lot of the individuals who were talking about these issues were just ordinary Americans, people who have been affected by climate change, people who have been affected by gun violence, people who have been affected by some of this administration's immigration policies. And I thought one of the most powerful moments, and it hasn't gotten a lot of play today, but I just thought little Estela Juarez, whose father is a United States Marine Corps veteran, who voted for President Trump in 2016. She read a letter to President Trump, and in that letter, she indicated that her father voted for President Trump back in 2016 because he promised to protect military families. Instead, he had her mother deported, or the administration had her mother deported. And that instead of protecting military families, to quote her, "You tore our family apart." Those are the people I think that Democrats are hoping to bring into their tent. People who may have voted for Donald Trump back in 2016 because of some of the rhetoric that he used. He wanted to only bring on the best people. Well, you've seen the news today that Steve Bannon has been indicted on an alleged fraud scheme. He wanted to, make America great again. And in fact, what a lot of people are seeing is that there are 170,000 Americans dead because of the COVID-19 crisis. And there is, a sense that things are not going the way that the president promised. And that's why you have people like Estela's father who are considering voting for Joe Biden.
It was really heart-wrenching to hear that story. There's no doubt about that, Vlad. I think it pulls at the heartstrings. That's what that message was intended to do. And I thought that it was very important that she noted that her father's a Marine, right? We talked about that. But that's conflating two different issues. And I think that's the false narrative that the Democrats are trying to do in terms of like hoodwinking, pulling the wool over your eyes of what the reality is. Let's not forget, on the same evening that we're hearing from Barack Obama, who is, many believe in the Hispanic community, they call him the deporter in chief, because over 3 million families were separated and broken apart under his failed immigration policies. The former president said he's going to resolve immigration reform in the first 100 days. It's going to be one of the most important pivotal things he's going to do. And instead, it was a lot of false hope with executive orders on things like for the Dreamers. Reconciling those issues is really where I think many families, particularly even Latino families, are going to be deciding on who's the right option moving forward. Is it going to be a bunch of promises that never get met, or something that actually is getting done? Now, on immigration reform, let me tell you, particularly there was a line that said it is our right to be here, something to that sense. There's many who believe that you have a right when you follow the system, when you get in line. The immigration system is broken, but we reward people who do this legally. So reconciling how we do that, Vlad, is really the heart of those kind of issues. You can, on any of those issues, gun violence, climate, I go down the line. So the rhetoric was broad and in many cases beautiful, but it doesn't tie to the reality of Democratic policies.
What about that, Antjuan? The fact that there were a number of issues that Democrats raised yesterday and look, it has always been thus, that there are two sides to each issue, each policy proposal. There's the Democrats' way of looking at things, and then there's a Republican way. Leslie brings up a good point. President Obama was called the deporter in chief. What are some of the differences, as you see them, between how President Obama conducted his immigration policy vis-a-vis what is happening now with the Trump administration?
Well, there's a totally different tone and temperature in this country from when Barack Obama was president and when Joe Biden hopefully will be the next president. And the fact of the matter is Donald Trump and the Republican Party and this particular administration have failed on the big issues they promised to deliver to certain communities and certain constituencies on, including the Latino community. I do believe in my heart that most of the issues you heard talked about and discussed last night, the American people, and they're opposed to back up what I'm saying, believe Democrats are well positioned and will better handle these issues by plus 50%. That's why we won the historic way we did in 2018 when healthcare was our North Star. I think healthcare will be our North Star going into the 2020 election based on the worst pandemic since 1918. That's why when you hear Republicans really try to use immigration as a red meat distraction issue to highlight, to move away from the fact they failed constituencies on these issues. When you look at climate, there's a Republican Party who do not even believe climate change is a reality on this country. When you look at infrastructure, all the big ticket items we tend to talk about and discuss in our politics, while the Republicans want to make them Democrat versus Republican issues, Democrats have made the case for the past several nights that these are American issues, and we want to deal with them in a bipartisan way. That's why you see Republicans speaking at the Democratic National Convention. This is our approach to how we will govern when we are in charge.
Leslie, before we wrap it up, this is just strictly from a television production standpoint. The bar has really been raised with how the Democrats conducted this convention. I'm sure even you would agree that, given the extreme circumstances we're all living under right now, that they figured out an interesting way to deliver this convention. And, a lot of people, both Democrats and Republicans, were talking about the roll call specifically, how cool that was to go around the country and around the world to have people either in their indigenous languages or in traditional clothing, or in some cases even using the food that they're known for as part of the roll call process, which was pretty cool. We haven't seen much or heard much as to what the RNC is planning next week. I think we do know that the couple who brandished those weapons at the Black Lives Matter protesters in St. Louis are slated to speak. But is there going to be, do you see it as a uphill is there a difficult challenge for Republicans, given how diverse, how unique this process has been for the Democrats, to try and sort of make it similarly?
Right. I think what you're pointing to, Vlad, is a lot of the liberal Hollywood finesse and fabricating a fantastic show. In many cases it was. It had theater and all those components to it. And it was this kind of fabrication to uphold their candidate, meaning Joe Biden, who, if anything, the takeaway for me personally was, again, he is the supporting act. He is almost bookmarked by leaders in the party, the new standard bearers in the party, who are part of wealthier liberalism. And Kamala Harris is a big part of that. She is really, looking at president in waiting. And that's what I think a lot of people are talking about. It's not just all the music and the artists and people that come together. The Democrats have always held much more entertaining conventions and a lot more diversity. That is a very fair criticism. But Republicans are going to be looking at where's the job situation? Working class families, are they going to continue to have access to health care? The president has certainly a lot of things to answer to. I can guarantee you this, it's not going to be anything we would traditionally map out for a Republican convention, Vlad, having been part of many of them. He will pick something completely off the wall that no one would have ever prescribed. But the president is very fine-tuned to those voters, that Biden wants to get, but you don't hear a lot about in the last few nights. It's that working class voter who felt disgruntled that the Democratic Party left them, and they've been looking over. And they were mad at Republicans too, but they liked the Trump style, and for all the grit and unorthodox and just so many things we just dislike about his approach. They're going to see, can he kind of deliver on that again for 4 more years? And those are the voters that we really should be paying attention to. And they are going to see it on his tweets. They're going to see it from him directly. And the convention is probably, the president recognizes, just a part of that, not his full message.
Antjuan Seawright, Leslie Sanchez, so great to talk to you both. Leslie, I gotta say, how do I get a box of those Pez dispensers that you've got behind you there of all the presidents, or at least some of the presidents? That is so cool.
I know. I love political memorabilia like that. I have a few more little presidents running around, but yes, the Pez dispenser presidents is amazing.
I'm going to be on eBay looking for that stuff. Thank you. Thank you both so much. Appreciate it. Great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. CBSN's coverage continues throughout the day with in-depth analysis each night starting at 5 p.m. Eastern with Red and Blue. At 7 p.m., we take a look at the day's headlines, and at 8:30, Elaine Keano and the team look ahead to the DNC's upcoming key moments. When the speeches start at 9 p.m., we will bring them to you live.